What's going on, people? So today what are we working on? We are working on a Yamaha SUV 1200 WaveRunner. So this is a pretty common thing. I figure with the warmer weather eventually coming and people are going to want to get on their jet skis, we should do a little how to install a seat cover on a jet ski. So this is an easy one. There's no stitching. It's just a wrap. As long as the material they give us is long enough and it stretches well, we're not going to have a problem. A lot of times with jet skis, you have smooth covers like this. So if you have a seat foam that's glued down, it's really tough. You got to steam it and try to peel it off, and it takes a long time to do that. A lot of people will put the covers over it, but when you get stuff like this, where the foam's damaged, cracking, if you go over that, you're going to see all that. You really need to take that off, and on some of the jet skis, it becomes a big issue because you have to repair the foam once you pull all of the vinyl off. This one, we are lucky it's not glued down. We're going to pop this off. There's a lot of staples to remove. Even though this is actually in pretty good shape, that rear seat, we're going to repair the foam, so I'll show you how we do foam repairs. I guess let's get started. I'm Eddie Barrett. Thank you for watching Atomic Autoworks, and hopefully this video helps you out. And here we go. I already started taking some of these staples out. Boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna do this for quite some time, and then I'll get back to you. Come over here, I wanna show you. I prefer this style staple remover, which I've shown in other videos. The reason I like this is, one, you always wanna try to get your staples from this side, because if you come in this way and you pull, you end up damaging the material. You're not going to use the material. You could think you're just not going to use it and throw it away, but it also could bark up the edges of it. So when you put your new material on there, it doesn't look good. It'll be bumpy. With these, what's nice is you could actually, from either side, you could stick it under there and you just twist it. I don't know if you can see that. You just twist it and it pops it up. You can't just rip them out, but I choose to use the dikes. And I like the pointy ones. I just got them at a hardware store and just pull them out. Make sure that there's no staples on here, because if you put the other cover on and you spin it, and that staple hits it, it's going to scratch or rip the new cover. Let's pull this off and see what we have underneath there. I always throw them in the garbage, but you can do whatever you want with staples. I actually had a guy we worked with that to save all the staples in old log rings, and he'd keep them because he wanted to turn them in for scrap metal. So I thought that was kind of funny, because that would be worth just about nothing. This seat here is actually, the foam looks good, so we're just going to throw the cover on here. If we don't have to do a repair, we don't, just because to add foam over this whole thing, because there's such a large seat, it actually gets kind of expensive. Fortunately, on the back seat, which we're going to take apart next, that seat actually needs to have some foam repair, very minor foam repair. Normally these things are shredded really bad. Staples are off, slightly glued on. Some people like to glue the covers on the jet skis to keep the water from going up and in it, which I get, because you don't want a wet cushion. However, usually they get wet anyway, and then there's no way for them to really drain and dry out. I mean, this has some holes in it. Sometimes you really want that water out of there. You know, if the water sits in there, it stinks. As you can see, this seat has some minor damage here. There's a couple spots. Little spots. I'm gonna go repair those. Now I'm basically just gonna glue some foam into these areas here. Depending on how they are, you could cut them out, make them square. I think we're actually gonna do on this one, we'll just trim it out. Stick our foam in there, shave it, grind it. One thing that's good is if you have time, you should take the seat covers off, stand these things upright, and let any moisture drain out of them. This one luckily isn't wet, so we're good to go. I just ripped up some pieces of foam, similar density, that's what's on that seat. Some people won't repair this stuff, they'll actually just free float the seat over it, and you could do that because you're not gluing it down, but you will see a little bit of waddle here and there depending on how crazy you want to go. Okay, now with that stuck, we're going to trim it. I'm going to use the small angle grinder. Sometimes when you're gluing small pieces of foam in, it wants to pull out and go all over. Let me get my tea out of here. And let's clean this up. Okay, so hopefully this doesn't fall out. The repair is pretty much done. What I like to do a lot of times is put another layer of foam on it. Sometimes you can use a closed cell foam and sand that really good, because then it kind of bonds everything together. Lay the material out to see which seat's what. These are both large seats. Top one is a little bit bigger. That's gonna go for the front seat. One thing you should always do before you bring these to an upholsterer, if you have a chance, is take them out of the box. Never leave anything in a box folded up. You see all these lines. You put them in the sun, it'll take them a lot out, or take a lot of them out. However, sometimes if you leave it up folded up too long, it could actually do damage to the material. Certain materials will reprint, and then you're stuck. So we're gonna do the best we can with this because it's been folded up. Start off by warming it up a little bit just to see if we can make it a little more pliable. When you heat from the bottom material, you got to be careful because all that heat rises and it'll get trapped underneath there. I've seen a lot of guys like doing headliners of cars where they go to warm stuff up and they don't even realize that how much of that heat rises and ends up melting the headliner or changing the print on the headliner too. Now that we have the material warm, all you West Coast guys and down South guys, you probably don't run into these problems, but up north, northeast, we get some cold winters. Even though the heat's on, vinyl just doesn't move as much. Before we do this, I want to fold it again. One of the most important parts of upholstery is always finding your center point and working from the center out. Just gonna cut a little V here. That's the middle. There's actually, for this seat, there's a lot extra material, which is great. And it's a little bit thicker, which is nice. So a lot of the material that we've gotten in the past has been real thin and just over. Now I'm just going to start off, I'm going to find my center point. I'm just going to run a line down the center here because it's so much bigger, and then we'll trim it. I don't like to trim material. Well, actually, straight edge. Straight edges are metal, they're not yardsticks. Yardsticks aren't always perfectly straight, so you got to be careful what you're doing, using them for. We know this has a lot of extra material up here. We know that we have a lot of extra material here. So what I'm going to do is get this center line here, trim this back a little bit. From the center point of here, so I just marked my center point in the back here of the seat pan. Now I'm just going to bring this line up, put a quick staple in here. You always want to make sure when you're doing marine stuff you use stainless staples, and how you can tell is grab a magnet. So if you lay them down, just see that the magnet doesn't work on stainless, good stainless. I'm going to spin this now. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to mark my center point. Now I'm going to just pull this one up, line them up, center to center. Not pulling really tight. I'm just going to put 3 temporary staples in there. So now we start pulling our sides a little bit. So what I'm going to do is just pull this around, make sure everything's nice. Look at what you're doing. This is one wrinkly seat. I'm going to put a lot of heat on this. Okay. Pull this around here. Put a little of that there, just temporary. What I'm doing is I'm just kind of massaging the material around so it kind of flows around there to get it in place. I'm trying to heat some of these wrinkles out because this looks like this has been in the box for a long time. We'll get them out. I just don't want to change the grain, so I'm going to pull. Whenever you're heating up vinyl, you always want to make sure you have your hand near it so that you can feel how warm it's getting. Because if it's too hot for your hand, it's going to be too hot for the vinyl. If you get too hot with the vinyl, you'll actually melt it and you can emboss it and change the print and change the grain of it. You got to be kind of careful. So we got a lot of extra slack here. I don't want to go too crazy trimming until we figure out what's going where. Temporary one up here. Put a temporary one here. Temporary. Temporary. Now we know we're close. Some of the excess off here. By trimming this off, it just makes it a little bit easier to work. Always pay attention to what you're doing. You're better off cutting twice than cutting it short. We're going to start heating it now. It's never good to try to do your full stretch of material in one shot. You're always going to want to go back and forth, side to side. On these one, it's not as critical, but if you had a seat cover with a print or pattern on it, you pull too hard on one side, the other side moves over, you lose your center point. You're better off just doing a little at a time. Okay, nice and warm. I'm just rub that over. You see what I'm doing here is, you can see there's this huge crease in the middle from being folded. There was a lot of them. There's still a couple up here. But if you just take the material and kind of just gently roll it over, you can do that. Once we start getting tighter, we're gonna actually start smacking the material a little bit, which a lot of people laugh when we in the upholstery shop do that. It actually works really well. So you see people smacking stuff. Well, I'm gonna heat this first and I'll show you. Sometimes when you're trying to stretch vinyl, fabric, or leather over a large surface, even though you can pull as hard as you can and it will move, but not enough. So by smacking it, it actually kind of shocks the foam and lets you move it in place. So you can see as we're going back, we're getting closer. This one center wrinkle is going to be a bear. I'm just warming it up lightly. I don't want the heat gun on it too much. So I'm going to pull it and keep pulling it. And hopefully as it's warm, it'll release that without changing the print. Massage that material over. Pull it around the edge. Massage it over. So now I'm going to take a couple of the staples that I put in there out. So we're going to be moving a little bit step by step. A couple more over here. Now I'm going to start messing with the front. I'm going to get this nice and warm. I don't like to overheat and stretch the front of the seats. On the jet skis, it's not bad because it's a really heavy plastic. On motorcycle seats, if you pull that too hard, it'll actually spread the plastic on the front away, and then it doesn't match up to the tank area. So this is getting warm. Feel that? Just a little tug, nothing radical. We don't want to overstretch it. Do a temporary one here. I'm going to massage. Massage that material. You can see the big wave of material coming around. We'll warm it up again, and then we're going to slap it and move it more. Because what's going to happen is if you get it to look nice now, in the future, when it's out in the sun, the material is going to move, and then you might get wrinkles and it might get baggy. So you kind of have to overstretch them a little bit. So I'm going to go through and just keep heating and massaging this, not bore you. We're getting close, and I'm going to show you the upholstery slap method. So we're getting close now. You can see most of the wrinkles are gone. You're going to pull your material over, right? You see how it's still moving? There's a really thin line between overstretching and not stretching enough. If you overstretch it, you're going to change the profile of the foam, which you really don't want to do. But if you understretch it, even though it looks good now, it might look bad in a few weeks or months. So when you pull, you grab like this. So you're pulling a long area. So you grab with your thumb, the inside right there. So I'm going to do that. So I'm pulling now with this, my right hand. I'm going to slap it. So that's going to pull it around. There you go. So you get that little extra oomph out of it. So I just got to clean up the edges and make the front tip look better and all that stuff. So I started the front seat, the bigger seat, which believe it or not, is sometimes a little easier because it's just a bigger area to go. You just want to make sure you pull the material tight. I wanted to show how to smack the material again. You can kind of get a better visual on this one. This is a thicker material. It's actually a nicer grade than normally we see. Still going to get it warm because there's a lot of really rough wrinkles in here. You still see the center line down there where it was folded. It was real rough, but I'll show you. So we're going to take this. Now I know when I hit the camera it's going to smack. So remember, if you try to just pull from the bottom here, a lot of times you'll stretch the material. You could rip it, and it doesn't really pull well up here. You want to get this material down. If you start rolling it, you can see you get that kind of like the little wave of vinyl going on there. Now we got 2 waves, right? And we're going to go again. We got 3 waves. So as it's going down, it's great, but we got to get it down there. So if you smack it, it'll move that material way down there. Then once you get it down, once you get around the edge, then you can kind of pull around the edge and you're good. So I'm going to leave this little wave. Actually, it came right out. I'm just going to pull this around and staple it down. Still wrinkles in there. What I do is like, I kept saying like I'll get it hot, but not like really hot. Because if you try to get it too hot, that's when you run the risk of actually obviously melting the material. But I find that when it's nice and warm and then you stretch it a little bit, keep it warm, stretch it a little bit, it kind of releases on its own, so you don't have to worry about damaging the material, and then it kind of stays like that. So I'm going to have to keep working this the same way. I'm just going to go around this whole seat, keep massaging it, getting these waves. See those waves? Actually, that's pretty tight. But we'll get those waves up there, we'll pull them up, and then once those are out of there, we'll heat it up again and see if we can get rid of this center one. Okay, I won't lie. Doing this at home to make it look good with a hair dryer is going to be difficult for you, but if you go out and buy a heat gun, it'll be better. This seat here, the material actually was way better than I thought. I could still see the line in the middle, but I just don't want to stretch it anymore. I just want to let it relax and kind of do what it has to do, because this is pulled fairly tight right now. My rule of thumb, when you do these, if you could run your hand across it firm and not get a wave, then you know you're tight enough. If you get it to that point and you start pulling it more, a lot of times you'll actually start changing the profile of the seat and changing the shape.